DreAllDay.com.
What's going on, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. This is the last one. I'm going to bulk together power forwards and centers. We're just going to call these guys bigs. If you want to play a big position in basketball, what skills do you need? Well, let's look around. Let's look around at the bigs that we know who are Hall of Famers. Bigs who are, we all can agree, were good at what they did. All right, that's what we're going to talk about. We're just going to say bigs who were good at what they did. Hall of Fame bigs. Dirk Nowitzki, is he a Hall of Famer? I would say he's a Hall of Famer. Let's say Shaquille O'Neal, is he a Hall of Famer? Yes. Is Kevin Garnett a Hall of Famer? Karl Malone, Hall of Famer. Charles Barkley, Hall of Famer. So that's 5 guys who are definitely Hall of Famers. Larry Bird, even though you could put him on the wing too. Kevin McHale, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. These guys are all Hall of Famers at their positions. Tim Duncan, Hall of Famer. Chris Webber, Hall of Famer. These guys are all Hall of Fame players at the positions that they played. We can agree to this, yes? Hakeem Olajuwon, Hall of Famer. There's plenty of people I can name. You tell me one thing that each one of those guys all did. There's not any one thing. There's no one thing that each one of those guys all did as a dominant skill. Shaquille O'Neal was a guy who was just going to get in the paint, get as close to the rim as possible, and just beat you up, dunk on you all day. That's what Shaquille O'Neal did. He could do other things. He had his little hook shots and all that, but his differentiating ability was that he was big and quick. He was athletic and big. There's other guys who've been in the league the same size as Shaq, but they didn't have the athleticism that Shaq had. So let's not discredit that. He has athleticism and size, and that's what he would do, bruise you in the paint. Now look at a guy like Chris Bosh. Look at a guy like Dirk Nowitzki. What do? Dirk Nowitzki's not going to bruise you and beat you up in the paint. Dirk Nowitzki's going to hit you with the J. He's going to spot up and hit J's on you. He's going to post you up and shoot the fadeaway on you, and he's going to give you 30 off jump shots, where Shaq's going to give you 30 off posting up, scoring on you in the paint, and getting to the foul line. So there's 2 completely different ways of doing it, but they're both Hall of Famers. Shaq ain't shooting no threes. Dirk's not going to throw a bow in your chest and dunk on you with 2 hands. Neither of them they're not doing the same thing in any way, shape, or form, but they're getting things done. That's why they're both Hall of Famers. Dirk is not protecting the rim, swatting people's shots away. Shaq's doing that. Dirk's not out there grabbing 15 rebounds. Shaq's doing it. Dirk's doing it his way. Shaq's doing it his way. Look at a guy like Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh is an all-star. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but he's definitely an all-star. We can agree to that. Chris Bosh can go out and guard the point guard on they run the pick and roll. The Heat will switch the pick and roll, let Bosh go chase that point guard away to blow up the pick and roll, then get back to his man. Can Shaquille O'Neal do that? No. Can Tim Duncan even do that? Not really. Can Dirk do it? Not really. But Chris Bosh is an all-star. Look at a guy like Tim Duncan. He's not going to throw a bow on you and dunk on you with 2 hands, but he can dunk on you. He can score with more fundamental stuff. He can also shoot the jump shot. He's not doing the fadeaways like Dirk, but he can hit the thing off the glass. He's not shooting threes like Dirk. Look at a guy like Kevin Garnett. He's an all-around guy. He's not really a scorer. He's so good, and he's such a focal point of the teams he played on. He would get you, 16 to 20 points per game, maybe 24, 25 points per game at his peak, because he was the focal point of the team and because he was so damn good, but he wasn't really a scoring guy. He was a guy who's going to get assists. He's a guy who's going to get a bunch of rebounds. He's going to set a bunch of picks. He wants somebody else to be the scorer. So being the top scorer is not necessary. It's not a necessary thing you have to do to be great as a big. Kevin Garnett's a Hall of Famer. He didn't have to be the #1 scorer to be a Hall of Famer. So you don't have to be the top scoring guy to be a Hall of Fame or All-Star. You don't have to shoot threes. You don't have to post people up. You don't have to body people down there in the paint. There's no one thing that you got to be able to do. You ain't got to be a mid-range shooter like a Bosh or a Tim Duncan or a Dirk. You could be a guy like Shaq. You could be a guy like Olajuwon. He could shoot, but he didn't really shoot mid-range that much, maybe along the baseline. But he was a guy who had that deft footwork. He just shifted you up with the footwork more than the ball handling itself. It was the footwork that he had, and he would just make you look dumb with the footwork and hit you with layups. He would dunk, but he wasn't like bodying you up, just pushing you out the way like a Shaq. There are different ways of doing it. You look at a guy like Charles Barkley. He was undersized. Charles Barkley like 6'4". A guy like Karl Malone, he's like 6'9". They had somewhat similar skill sets. They could both shoot a little mid-range shot. They wasn't shooting too many threes, but they could hit you in the post, do some moves, try to get their space, and then they get their little shot on you. And that's the thing that they did. And they could do it well. They could also dunk on you off the bounce. They could take you from the 3-point line, get to the rim and dunk on you, run the pick and roll like Karl Malone did, and bang on you. Charles Barkley would take it himself, break you down with a little bit of ball handling move. He hit a 3 on you. And then he'd get to the rim and dunk on you as an undersized guy and grab 12 rebounds as a 6'4" power forward. So it's different ways of doing it. There's no one way that says, all right, this is the way you play, you'll be successful. It doesn't work like that. You could be undersized like a Barkley and still make the Hall of Fame. You could be an oversized guy like a Shaquille O'Neal or a David Robinson, or who else is another person? Dirk Nowitzki, a Chris Bosh. Like these big guys, Kevin Garnett. You don't have to be a bruiser. You can be athletic, blocking shots. You don't have to block any shots. You can be a guy who's not really known for his defense, like a Dirk. You can be a guy who's not the number one option on offense, like KG or Chris Bosh. What's the right way? There is no right way. So I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told you in the other 3 position vids is this. You gotta figure out what your game is. What is your game? Who are you on the court? If you came into my gym and I'm the coach and I say, what do you bring to the table? And you can't answer the question. You can't just say, well, I'm a point guard. I'm not gonna be like, I don't care what you call yourself. What do you bring to the table, son? Did you hear my question? What do you bring to the table, young lady? What do you bring to the table? If you can't answer that question, what do I need you for? And when you get on the court, you're not bringing nothing to the table. You can walk in the gym and call yourself a point guard or a small forward or a big man or a shooting guard all you want. When I get you on the court and you ain't got no game, what the hell do I care what position you call yourself? Oh, coach, I'm a shooting guard. Oh, coach, look, I would have played better if you would have put me at point guard. You had me at shooting guard, but if you put me at point guard, I'll be a better player. Bullshit. Bullshit. You can play at any position. And this is also very important. I'm gonna do a whole video on this topic alone because a lot of players they get so caught up in this position thing that they forget about having some actual skills, or they neglect to think about having skills. They put the position before the skills. I'm gonna make sure we get that right. So there's another video coming where I'm gonna talk about that. Everybody work on your game. DreAllDay.com. Ever wonder what it would be like if you could be more confident on a more consistent basis? What about if you could just brush off the negativity of other people more easily so they didn't stumble you and slow you down? What if you could be more of a leader so that people fell under your influence and followed your direction and your communication? What if you could have more focus on the positive things that you want instead of looking at the negativity and letting that slow you down and put fear in your heart? And what if you could do all of this, tie it all in and make it part of your normal day-to-day life for the rest of your life? Would there be any benefit to that? I think so, and I know you do too. Well, guess what? My new course is called Bulletproof Mindset, and it covers everything I just said and a whole lot more. It's an 8-week course. You can get all the details and get started right now at DreAllDay.com/bulletproof. Check it out, and I'll see you over there. Work on your game. If you're on Snapchat, hit me on the Snap. My Snap name is @Dre Baldwin. You already know how that works. And I got a podcast, if you didn't know. It is called Work on Your Game. It is an everyday podcast where I talk about getting yourself into the right mindset, that bulletproof mindset. Getting yourself seen, heard, known, getting the exposure you want, and making things happen in your life instead of waiting for things to happen to or for you. Subscribe to that podcast when you're on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Make sure you check it every single day. Make sure you're subscribed so you catch the heat. Work on your game. Dre Ball. I feel like Dre Ball. When I feel like Dre Ball. I'm ballin'. I feel like Dre